he just went low. He's in his head. He's in his head. He's open. His head wide open. Cracked open in the face.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mario Mentos 100 back again with another episode of How's My Team. Obviously, the seasons for both the Gold Coast Titans men's team and also the GWS Giants men's team. Both of those seasons have finished, but we still got to talk about Liverpool coming back this week with the Premier League. They're back this week. We also got to talk about the Giants women's team. We're also going to talk about the Titans women's team as well, in the fact that they're fighting for a spot in the finals. Let's see if they actually end up getting into the finals or whether they didn't, and a few other miscellaneous things. But yeah, let's get started with the episode. So we'll start out with the Giants women's team. Obviously, we won't talk about them for too long, but we finally broke a 378-day drought with a gutsy win over the Western Bulldogs in Canberra. So they played that yesterday, so I'm officially recording this part of it on Sunday. They played Saturday afternoon. It was 50 points to 29, so it's actually their highest score that they've scored all year. They hadn't gone over 30 until obviously last week's game, where they ended up scoring 33 points, going down to the Gold Coast Suns. But it was 8 goals 2 to 3 goals 11 in the game. Ultimately, they didn't start out great. It was though we were only behind by 1 point against the Bulldogs in the first quarter, with only 1 point scored. Then we ended up scoring 1 goal 1, and they scored 5 behinds in the second half. So we ended up leading at halftime by 1 point. And then we had a full-on explosion of goals, 7 goals 2 in the third quarter in total for the Giants. So ultimately they kicked 6 goals 1 in the third quarter, compared to 3 goals 3 for the Bulldogs. And the Bulldogs only kicked 2 behinds in the last quarter, and the Giants kicked a single goal in the last quarter. So 21-point win, great win for them. That gets them off the bottom of the AFLW ladder. Right now they're in 13th position with 1 win. Obviously, there's still a couple of games to play. I think Richmond are playing against Geelong. They're not doing crash hot. The last time I seen the score for that. Essendon, I think, is also playing today. There's a few teams that are playing around, but around the mix, we are just behind the Bulldogs in terms of percentage. But we're in front right now against St Kilda, the Gold Coast Suns, Fremantle Dockers, and the Richmond Tigers. So St Kilda, Fremantle, and Richmond are still playing today. So we could drop positions at this point. Obviously for Richmond, at the time that I seen the score, wasn't looking like that was going to be the case. But obviously there's a few games going on. Obviously North have also got to play in the grand final rematch again this week against the Brisbane Lions, I'm pretty sure, today as well. So another big game for both clubs. Obviously Brisbane Lions looking on the outside, looking in to the top 8 in 9th position, but pretty good win for the Giants girls. I think that ultimately they've been close in some games. They obviously just got buried in the first game against Essendon. Obviously didn't do too bad against Adelaide, in the fact that Adelaide are around the mix. Obviously though, I think Adelaide are in 7th position at the moment, I believe. Let me have a look again. They're in 8th at the moment, so they're hanging around in the spots where they should be. Obviously Collingwood are obviously getting another win as well. So they're higher than the Giants at the moment, but hopefully we can keep some momentum in. Their next game obviously is next week, today on next week today, as in Sunday next week, against the Swans in the Sydney Derby at Henson Park in Sydney. So another big game for both clubs, especially for the Swans, to kind of put a stamp on the rivalry with the Giants. Obviously, the Giants looking like they want to upset the Swans, but the Swans have been playing some good footy this year, so it's going to be very tough for them. But ultimately, 21-point win, we take those because, again, like I said, it's been a long, long time, well over a year, 378 days. The drought stops for them, so great result for the Giants women's team, and that's can't fault the effort for that, especially over the last week or two, a couple of weeks as well. We go from one women's club to the other, and going from the Giants to the Titans, and the Titans were hanging on the thread in terms of playing finals football in the NRLW. Obviously, leading into it, Parramatta had to win to keep their chances alive. They did end up doing that. They did end up beating the Bulldogs by a decent margin. So it was all to play for yesterday for the Titans. Obviously, win and they were in. Lose and they were out. They could have still won with a draw as well, because obviously their for and against was a lot better than Parramatta. At some stages during the game, it didn't look like they were going to win. But they did end up winning. They did end up making finals in Golden Point, with 17 points to 16 for the Titans over the Raiders. And what I will say is that the Raiders played really, really well. Obviously the oncoming storm in terms of the Titans, they scored early. They were the first to score a try. They scored a try in the first 3 minutes through Phoenix Rain Hippie. Fantastic player, fantastic winger. She's done really well for this club. And then a couple of minutes later, obviously, Canberra scored their first try. Then Phoenix got a double about 5-10 minutes later to make it 8-4. Obviously, conversions have been missed from all three teams at this point. And then, obviously, Canberra actually ended up getting ahead at halftime, 16 points to 8. So it was looking like it was going to be a situation where the Titans themselves were going to shoot themselves in the foot and not win the game because they were behind by 8. They ended up making a penalty shot, which put it back to 6 points, and then scored with like 2.5 minutes left in the game to level up at 16. Obviously, Lauren Brown, I didn't even know Lauren Brown actually missed a field goal attempt in the last minute of the second half. Obviously, finished at 16 all, and then a couple minutes into extra time into Golden Point, Lauren Brown made up for a previous mistake on the field goal and slotted one probably about 30 metres out to finish the game for the Titans and make sure that they make finals. So at this point, in terms of the results right now, we're in 6th position. So either at this point, obviously I think the Knights are playing at the moment, and if they win against the Dragons, we will play them because they'll jump to 3rd, and it'll be 3rd versus 6th and 4th versus 5th in terms of the finals. So we'll either be playing the Cowboys if Newcastle does lose or draws with the Dragons at this point, or if the Knights do beat the Dragons, they will jump the Cowboys in terms of their for and against being better than the Cowboys and jump into 3rd position. So they'll be hosting a final, like an elimination type final, regardless, like a semi-final. Newcastle, and in the same vein, the Cowboys will be as well. It'll just be on who's the opponent that's going to be playing them So obviously the Knights will be playing at McDonald Jones, and obviously the Cowboys will be playing up in North Queensland at QBank, up in Townsville at this point. But the way that it was looking in terms of the result, I think Newcastle, might have scored. Newcastle were in front of the Dragons, so they would be playing the Titans. So either way, it's going to be a pretty hard effort in a final to play away from home. But obviously, we made the finals. We've done reasonably well. Obviously, slotting into sixth position, kind of, just getting into the finals. But in general, it hasn't been a great season. But that draw, like I said a few weeks ago, actually definitely helped with the result, because obviously we make finals with that extra point in hand. And even if we were on 10 points, we ended up having better for and against than the Eels anyway. So thankfully, when we did get belted, we scored a whole lot more points to try and get in. Though, in saying that, the Eels definitely did score more points. It's just that obviously they leaked more points, especially early on during the season as well. But good result, 17-16 against the Canberra Raiders. I'll give Canberra due diligence, because they didn't start their year off fantastic at all. Went really poorly in the first couple of games. Were looking like they were going to be last for a long time. But once they got that win, obviously they only got 2 more wins after that, but they ended up playing relatively good football and were in most of the games that they were in after that first win. So it wasn't a bad situation for the Canberra Raiders in general, but obviously left it a little bit too late and lost too many games at the start, especially for them. But if they fire at the start of the year and can continue that momentum through, they'll play a really good football, because they played really good football. Won against the Titans, obviously yesterday, but played after they got their first win, which I think was against the Tigers anyway. It ended up being reasonably alright, though they were in a lot of the games. I think one loss, in that was a game where they lost by a decent margin, but most of the others were pretty close in terms of results. So good props to the Raiders. They made it very hard for the Titans to win, but obviously the Titans did win in Golden Point. But that also means that we do have to travel in terms of the finals, whether it be to Newcastle or to North Queensland. But I will let you know when we finish the episode off where we'll be going, because obviously we're talking about more teams on Monday, especially Liverpool, because obviously they play tonight in terms of time period. So we'll be talking about how the finals fixtures will be tomorrow. But obviously 17-16 win for the Titans over the Canberra Raiders, which confirms finals for 2025 for the Gold Coast Titans women's team. So congrats to them in making the finals, because that's always the first step. And the first step is always, sometimes the first step is always the hardest step, is trying to make finals in general. And, it's a good result for the Titans, because they did miss out last year. Obviously, a couple of years ago, they made it all the way to the grand final. But, yeah, good result. It's going to be a tough game either way, whether we go to North Queensland or go to Newcastle. But we do have a situation where we can win. I think after that, playing third versus sixth possibly plays the Roosters, I would imagine, would be how the bracket would work. And that's going to be a hell of a game as well, no matter who plays it. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, but you got to make it to give yourself a chance, and Titans girls have made it. So that's the first step. So it's Monday morning. I'm a little bit tired. Stayed up a little bit late, but I was up during the game with Liverpool versus Burnley. They were away at Burnley, and it was another win for Liverpool, but they left it very, very late once again in stoppage time to win 1-0 over Burnley. It was 0-0 at half time. Like I said, it wasn't until stoppage time. There was a red card, I believe, in this game. Obviously, it was 2 yellows. Um, and yeah, one of their players was sent off Burnley in the 84th minute. So about 10 minutes later, we ended up scoring the goal from a penalty in the box, and it was Mohamed Salah once again scoring a match winner for the Liverpool Reds, and yeah, great result for them. That means that they stay in top position, 3 points in front of Arsenal, and then in third is Spurs, then fourth is Bournemouth, and Chelsea drops all the way down to fifth. Man City did win today, earlier this morning as well, in the Manchester derby, Battle Manchester. So they jumped to eighth, after being down in 16th position, I believe. So they're all outside of the relegation zone. But yeah, not looking too bad. Obviously, needed the win. Obviously, the draw would have been okay. Obviously, we would have been still in front of Arsenal, but it would have been like a game that's basically dropped for Liverpool. But it is going to be a very, very important week this week, because we do play 2 games this upcoming week. And then we play 2 games next week as well. So it's going to be a very interesting week, and the week coming up. Obviously, we have the Champions League starting. We'll be staying at home. We'll be coming home on Thursday at 5 a.m. my time. We play against Atletico Madrid in the first game of the Champions League. So a very, very, very tough game, followed by playing in the Merseyside derby against Everton on the Saturday, at 9:30 my time. So 9:30 at night on Saturday night. So good result for Liverpool. 1-0 win. Obviously, Burnley being in a bad position right now. They're right down in 17th now. They're right towards the middle of the table. I think we're talking 10, 11, 12 positions. So not great in the fact that it took so long to score, but obviously they did end up scoring at the end. So it's not a bad situation for Liverpool with a 1-0 win, staying on top of the ladder in the Premier League, and defending the crown, but also got a couple of big games coming up, because we got Southampton on the Wednesday after, the Merseyside derby as well in the Cabrera Cup. Call it Cabrera Cup. You know what I'm talking about. The Carabao Cup, or however it's pronounced. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And then we play Crystal Palace in a rematch of the Community Shield from a few weeks back. So very, very interesting couple of weeks to go for Liverpool, but 1-0 win over Burnley away from home for Liverpool, staying on top of the Premier League ladder. And that'll be it for this episode of How's My Team. So we're just going to go over some updated results. The Giants are now in 16th position, the Giants girls, with wins for the Saints and Fremantle that pushed them down in the table. Richmond still did lose, so they're still at the bottom of the ladder. So that's unfortunate for them. Newcastle did end up winning by 8 points. It was 8 points to the Dragons at half time, and Newcastle flipped the script a little bit and won by 8 points. So we'll be going down to Newcastle. The Titans girls will be going down to Newcastle this coming week to play against Newcastle, and then they play the winner of that game plays the Broncos at their home ground, whether it be at Suncorp or not. But yeah, so the winner will play the Broncos and then go into the grand final. Will be the winner of that game as well. So not an easy part of the draw, but again, I guess in the Titans' favour, they won't have to travel as much if they do play against Brisbane, Whereas if they were playing on the other side of the draw, obviously they'd have to go against the Roosters, and the Roosters obviously are in a hot streak right now. Obviously, yes, the Broncos have only lost one game so far this year, and obviously that was to the Roosters. But, as explosive as they had been, they could, drop a game, could be overconfident. First and second, like in the Broncos and the Roosters, could be overconfident going into the finals. Obviously, having the week off kind of helps with their troops and getting troops back if they were injured. If obviously the injuries were only a couple of weeks, not like obviously obviously out for the year. For them, the extra week off sometimes does help. But obviously with some other teams, it also doesn't help because you've seen it. We'll probably see it in the AFL. Obviously, we'll see how the finals go because obviously Hawthorn won over Adelaide in their semi-finals. So Adelaide went out in straight sets. First minor premier in like 40 years, I think it was, in the AFL to lose straight sets. But Hawthorn played pretty well all game. I think that they kind of brought the game that they did against the Giants, but didn't kind of falter at all during the game, which is something that obviously I said last week was an issue for Hawthorn, is that if they didn't have a drop off like they did in the third quarter against the Giants last week, then they could be in trouble. But Adelaide just couldn't score. The defence for Hawthorn was pretty good, and they end up going against Geelong, which that's going to be an interesting rivalry, and I hope that the Hawthorn Hawks do win against Geelong, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough in both games because obviously Brisbane ended up winning the Q-Clash against the Gold Coast pretty convincingly. Both games, I will say, both semi-finals were kind of a little bit of a letdown if you're wanting as neutral for a close game, because both of them, I think, both teams ended up winning by over like 30 points, I think it ended up being. So, because I think Brisbane won by like 50 in their semi-final, but that books a date with Collingwood and obviously a rematch of the 2023 Grand Final in the prelims at the MCG. So all the teams will actually get some good practice in at being at the MCG. Obviously, Collingwood usually never leave that that ground all year, but the rest of the competition will have practice at the ground. Obviously, Geelong just played there last week. Obviously in the qualifying final against Brisbane. So they kind of got a little bit of practice under wraps, but it will be, I think both games will be Friday, Saturday, I believe is how the draw is. And I think the Brisbane game might be the Friday. I will have a look. But I'm pretty sure that game is the Friday and the other one is the Saturday. But I will just double check just to make sure with those results. No, actually it's the other way. Sorry, it is the other way. So the Friday game is Geelong versus Hawthorn, and the Saturday game, which starts in 5:15 in the afternoon, which is actually not bad for Brisbane and Collingwood. They play on the Saturday, so we'll know what our grand final will look like next weekend on Sunday, obviously, or at least late Saturday. But yeah, Sunday we'll know what the results will be, and obviously we'll see how we go. But hopefully Hawthorn and the Brisbane Lions go through. That'd be lovely, because we kind of don't want a situation where we want Geelong versus Collingwood, because that would be very, very, very boring. Very boring, because then I'd have to go for Geelong, and that sucks, because I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But obviously we'll go into some NFL now. We've obviously got 2 weeks to worry about, because obviously when recording, did this, they were playing the late game last week. Excuse me, that was a tickle in my throat. because obviously they were playing the late game. Obviously, I was editing the video, but obviously today I got the day off. So it was 17-13 loss against San Francisco 49ers for my Seattle Seahawks at home, and also a division game as well for them. So it's another reason why that sucks. But they were up at halftime. I think they were 10-7 up at halftime. I think off the memory, off the top of my head, but they played relatively okay. I thought they were going to lose the first game. I thought that they were going to lose in their first outing, just with new quarterback at the helm. You never know sometimes when it comes to teams, and obviously a division rival as well. The 49ers were looking back to get back on the winner's circle, to get into the into the picture for the division. So they're up there, but we did end up winning today, winning this morning, 31-17 away from home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So 1-1 at the moment, looking good. Obviously Pittsburgh ended up winning last week, so it was great result for Seattle, a 14-point win. Yes, yeah, I was making sure I did the math right. Yeah, 14-point win for them. Obviously a 3-point loss last week, but a 14-point win this week. So not looking too bad. Obviously we'll see what happens. But I will say at the end of this episode that I'm going to be taking a week break. I am going to be away next week, so I will try to record. I won't be doing a video at the usual time. I'll probably get back because I'm going back to see some friends and see my nan where I used to live, obviously before I moved up to the coast. So I will be going back there on Friday this week. So I'll be watching the games in terms of the AFL, the NRL finals as well. We're going to talk about, obviously, I'll be watching the Titans play. They'll be playing on Saturday, I believe. In fact, the bracket did come out yesterday, so I'll scroll back. Saturday at 2:30. It will be for the Titans, so we'll be watching that as best I can, and then obviously going from there, be watching some of the other games. But yes, I'll be travelling Friday, so I'll be travelling around the time that Geelong will be playing Hawthorn, and then I'll be back on the Tuesday. I'll be travelling back on Tuesday, so usually when I'll be recording, most of the time probably be Sunday or Monday, would have been. So I'll be back on Tuesday. Possibly could do a late episode on the Wednesday, just to see how I go. I could do that. Obviously I will be back Tuesday afternoon, and obviously try and record some stuff on the Wednesday. Put it up for Thursday. I don't know how I'm going to do things. So the schedule will move a little bit. We'll see how we go. I could do it on the weekend of the grand final, of the AFL grand final. Not sure how I'm going to do it yet, but obviously not next week, but the week after we'll be back on track. So we'll see how we go with everything. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of How's My Team. Quite a few good results. Obviously the Titans girls and the Giants girls and Liverpool. And my Cubs doing okay. They're still 5.5 games back over against the Brewers in the division, but they've only got to win a few games more this season to get a playoff spot clinched. So that's good for them as well. And then obviously my Seattle Seahawks winning today as well. So kind of on a high, kind of. We'll see. But yeah, we're not doing too bad. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of How's My Team. This has been Mario Mantez 100. You guys have a great time tonight, and of course, take care.